Santa Claus checked his ancient pocket watch for the 7th time in 20 minutes. The flickering candle above cast long, dancing shadows across the dusty wooden counter, making the empty space across from him seem like a gaping wound in the heart of the North Pole. Outside, the wind howled a lonely tune, a stark contrast to the comfortable hum of children's laughter that once filled these snowy streets. He sat alone in what used to be the most magical toy shop in the world, wearing his faded red suit, the velvet worn thin in places, waiting for a belief that had apparently packed up and left. His head elf Peppermint had warned him about the changing times. "People don't believe like they used to," she'd said that morning, her usually cheerful voice tinged with worry. "They want instant digital. They've forgotten the smell of wood and paint." But Santa had insisted on keeping the traditional workshop open. "The magic happens here," he'd told the town council. "Children need to believe in something real. That's what you've been searching for, right? Someone genuine who still believes." So here he sat, genuine and genuinely abandoned. The snow had fallen 3 times that week, each time burying his empty sign a little deeper. Santa was about to close up for the night, ready to accept that the era of wonder might truly be over, when he heard a small voice, nearly lost in the wind. "Excuse me, sir. Are you him? Are you Santa Claus?" He looked down, his breath catching in his chest. An elf stood in his doorway, a silhouette against the swirling snow. She was maybe 30 years old, with dark skin that seemed to absorb the faint light of the workshop. Her green dress, once vibrant, was now patched and faded, the color of moss in deep winter. She had large, brown eyes that sparkled not with magic, but with a fierce, desperate determination, and just a hint of a hunger so profound it was a physical presence. She clutched a small, empty cloth bag in both hands, her knuckles white. "I am," Santa said, his voice a low rumble. He glanced past her into the blizzard, looking for others who might be with her. "Are you lost? Where is your family?" The elf shook her head, stepping inside and bringing with her the biting cold. "I'm not lost. I'm Ilara. I have 3 children at home, Leora, Kai, and Kira. They're hungry." Santa's bushy eyebrows rose. "Are they okay? Where are they?" "They're at home," Ilara said, her voice barely a whisper. She looked down at her worn, thin boots, then back up at him, with those eyes that held a universe of worry. "I was too proud to beg. But tonight, the cold is too deep. They haven't eaten properly in 2 days. I know that's not your problem. I know you have your own troubles. Why are you here, Ilara?" Santa asked gently, now completely invested in this strange, painful turn of events. Ilara stepped further inside without being invited, the snow melting around her feet on the worn wooden floor. She set her empty bag on the counter and folded her small hands, a gesture of formal supplication. "I heard whispers that you help people, that you give toys to children who have none. But my children, they need food first. A toy is a wonderful thing, but it doesn't fill a belly that aches with emptiness." Santa felt something twist in his chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced in centuries, a sharp, visceral pang of empathy. This elf had traveled through a raging blizzard alone, risking everything, not for herself, but for the little ones waiting for her in the dark. "Ilara, how did you get here?" "I walked," Ilara admitted, a single tear tracing a path through the grime on her cheek. "My children think I'm looking for work. I left them with our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Hazel. I remembered the address from stories my grandmother used to tell. I had to come. Someone has to help my children. They are good children. They deserve to not be cold. You walked through this storm by yourself?" Santa felt alarm rising in his throat. This brave, desperate mother could have been lost forever in the white expanse. "I was very careful," Elara assured him, though her voice trembled. "I followed the lights of the old path. I didn't talk to strangers, except the kind snowplow driver who gave me a ride for the last mile. And you're not really a stranger because everyone says Santa helps those who truly need it." Santa sat back on his stool, completely stunned. In his 300 years of bringing joy to millions, making decisions that affected the hearts of children worldwide, he had never encountered a situation quite like this. A mother had done what she thought was impossible. She'd shown up, taken the ultimate risk, and asked for help, not for a toy, but for a lifeline. "Your children must be terrified," Santa said carefully. "I know," Elara said, and now her small voice wavered, breaking under the weight of her fear. "But I had to do something. I always say no when people try to help. I don't want charity, but my children, their little faces, they don't understand why there's no food. They just know there's an emptiness I can't fill." Santa felt his heart, the one he protected behind walls of tradition and magic for so many years, crack wide open. Here was a mother willing to risk everything, willing to be brave in a way most adults never could be. All because she loved her children and wanted them to be safe. This wasn't manipulation or a con. This was pure love in its most raw, desperate form. "Tell me about your children," Santa said softly, his voice thick with emotion. Elara's whole face transformed, lit by a love so powerful it seemed to push back the shadows in the workshop. "They are the best children in the whole world. My oldest, Leora, she's only 8, but she has the soul of an artist. She draws pictures on scraps of paper to make her brother and sister smile. She reads to them every night, even when her own stomach rumbles. The twins, Kai and Kira, they're only 5, but they share everything without complaint. They never ask for much, just enough food to stop the hurting. They have the brightest smiles, but they don't smile enough anymore." "What happened to their father?" Santa asked, treading carefully on the thin ice of her past. "He left when the twins were babies," Elara said matter-of-factly, the pain now a dull, familiar ache. "He said the North Pole was too cold, and responsibility was too heavy. He said it's not their fault. He said I had enough love for all of us, and I do. But I think they need someone to believe in them, someone who sees how special they are, even when we have nothing." The wind howled outside, rattling the window panes, a mournful sound that echoed the emptiness of the workshop. Santa waved his hand, and the candles on the counter burned brighter, pushing back the gloom. This conversation was too important to let the darkness win. "Elara, I need to help you," Santa said, his decision made with a certainty that felt like the first spark of a long-dead fire. "Your children need you. Can you tell me what skills you have?" Elara looked down at her hands, rough and red from the cold. "I can sew. I can carve wood. I used to make toys for my children before everything turned to snow and ice." Santa's eyes widened, a flicker of his old self returning. "You make toys?" "Simple ones," Elara admitted, a hint of pride in her voice. "Wooden animals, dolls from scraps of cloth. Nothing like what you used to make. They don't have magic." Santa stood up suddenly, his faded red suit seeming to gain new color, as if infused with a renewed purpose. He walked to a dusty corner of the workshop and uncovered a pile of forgotten wood and tools, pulling away a sheet that sent a cloud of glitter into the air. "Elara, I have a proposition for you. My workshop is failing, but maybe it's not because children don't believe. Maybe it's because I've forgotten what matters most. Maybe the magic isn't in me. It's in the making. He picked up a piece of pine, its scent filling the air. I can't offer much at first, just a place to stay, food for you and your children, and warmth. But if you can help me make toys again, real toys with heart and soul carved into every grain, maybe we can save this place together. Maybe we can remind the world what magic feels like. Tears streamed down Elara's face, freezing on her cheeks like tiny diamonds. You would do that for me, for us. I'm not doing it just for you, Santa said gently, his voice resonating with a newfound conviction. I'm doing it for all the children who still believe, for all the parents who want to give their children joy but can't. We can help each other. Elara, you can help me remember, and I can help you provide. For the first time since she'd arrived, Elara smiled. Truly smiled. It was the kind of smile that held hope and love, and the simple faith that good things could happen if you were just brave enough to take a chance. Santa didn't know it yet, but his entire life was about to change. The empty workshop wouldn't stay empty much longer. And when Elara's children walked through that door, everything he'd been searching for would finally make sense. Have you ever watched someone you love struggle alone, wishing you could help, but not knowing how? Elara's courage to help her children find happiness might just inspire you to take a chance on kindness too. Subscribe to hear what happens when Elara's children finally meet Santa, and comment below. Would you have done what Elara did? Elara rushed back through the snow, her worn green dress offering little protection against the biting wind. She'd been gone longer than planned, but Santa had insisted she'd take a basket filled with bread, cheese, and a steaming thermos of cocoa back to her children before returning to the workshop. The small apartment was cold, the fire in the little grate nearly out. Mrs. Hazel, the elderly neighbor, met her at the door with worried, rheumy eyes. "They were good, my dear," she whispered, "but they cried with hunger. I gave them what little I could." "Thank you," Elara said, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. "I have a job now, at Santa's workshop. We'll have food tonight. Real food." The children's eyes widened when she entered, their faces pale in the dim light. "Mummy, where did you get this?" Leora asked, her small voice filled with a fragile wonder. "Santa gave it to me," Elara said, kneeling to pull all three of them into a hug that was fierce with relief. "And he's given me a job making toys. We're going to stay at his workshop for a while, in a warm room." The twins, Kai and Kira, clapped their hands with a joy that was almost painful to witness. "We'll get to see Santa every day," Elara promised, tears of relief streaming down her face, hot against her cold skin. As they gathered their meager belongings, a few worn clothes, a tattered storybook, and a small carved bird Elara had made for Leora, she thought about how this impossible miracle had started. The desperation, the pride she'd had to swallow, the walk through the blinding snow with nothing but a mother's love to guide her. She had worked so hard to give her children a good life. Odd jobs, long hours, constant exhaustion. She did it all willingly, gladly. But somewhere along the way, she'd forgotten that her children were watching. They saw the tired eyes, heard the quiet moments of hunger, noticed the absence of joy. Children were supposed to worry about games and stories and the magic of Christmas. They weren't supposed to worry about where their next meal was coming from. They weren't supposed to see their mother beg for help. The workshop came into view, all warm lights and magical architecture, looking like a dream against the dark, snowy landscape. Elara pushed open the heavy oak door, her children trailing behind her, their eyes wide with awe. Santa stood by a roaring fireplace, his red suit seeming brighter, fuller than before. "Welcome home," he said with a smile that reached his eyes, crinkling the corners in a way that felt ancient and kind. The next few weeks transformed both the workshop and its inhabitants. Alara proved to be a natural toy maker. Her hands, though calloused from hardship, moved with a grace and purpose that seemed to channel the magic of the North Pole itself. She carved wooden animals with such lifelike detail that they seemed ready to leap off the workbench. She sewed dolls from scraps of fabric, giving each one a personality that made children feel they were receiving a friend, not just a toy. Santa watched in amazement as orders began to trickle in, then flow steadily. Parents who had forgotten the magic of handmade toys returned, drawn by the authenticity and love poured into each creation. The workshop was filled again with the sounds of laughter, the scent of pine and paint, and the glitter of magic in the air. It seemed like a fairy tale come true. But then, the first crack appeared. A large shipment of toys, destined for an orphanage in the southern hemisphere, was returned. The crate was marked, "Return to sender." Inside was a letter from the headmistress. "We appreciate the thought," it read, "but the children were disappointed. The toys are beautiful, but they're just wood. There's no magic, they don't move, they don't light up. In a world of so much wonder, these feel like relics." Sana and Ilara opened the crate. The toys were exquisitely made, a wooden horse with a flowing mane, a doll with a hand-painted smiling face. But the headmistress was right. They were just objects. The magic they had felt so sure they were pouring into their work wasn't transferring. It was as if there was a disconnect between their hearts and the children's. The workshop fell silent again, the sound of failure, colder than any winter wind. "I don't understand," Alara said, her voice hollow, holding the wooden horse. I felt it when I was making it." "I know," Santa said, his own heart heavy. "I felt it too. It's as if the magic of the North Pole is feigning, like a dying ember. This was the real problem, the one hidden beneath the failing business. The source of all wonder was running out." Over the following weeks, they tried everything. They worked by candlelight, using ancient tools. They sang the old carols while they worked. They even tried to infuse the toys with magic directly, but Santa's own powers felt weak, a faint echo of what they once were. Despair began to creep back into the workshop, a chilling fog that threatened to extinguish their hope for good. One evening, as a particularly bleak snow fell outside, Kai, who had been quietly exploring the deepest parts of the workshop's library, came running out, an enormous, dusty book in his arms. "Mum, Santa, look what I found." It was the Tome of Eternal Winter, a book of lore so old that most thought it was a myth. Together, they pored over its fragile vellum pages, filled with spidery script and illustrations that seemed to move. Finally, they found a passage that spoke of the heart of the North Pole, a magical crystal that was the source of all Christmas magic, and it was dying. The book gave a reason. The heart is fueled not by belief, but by sacrifice, by the true gift. A gift given freely, with no expectation of return, from one who has nothing left to give. They all looked at each other, the weight of the words settling in the room. Who among them had nothing left to give? Santa had his legacy. Ilara had a new job and home. The children had their full bellies and a warm place to sleep. They had all been saved. The solution seemed impossible. That night, long after everyone was asleep, Ilara crept out of her warm bed. She walked through the silent workshop to the chamber where the heart of the North Pole was kept. It was a massive crystal, pulsing with a weak, erratic light, like a flickering candle. She knew what she had to do. The book had described the ritual. The true gift wasn't a physical object, it was a memory. A core, happy memory. The most precious thing a person owns. She had to give it up. For Ilara, there was only one choice. She closed her eyes and reached deep inside herself, past the hunger, past the cold, past the fear. She found it. The memory of the first time she held her twins, Kai and Kira, one in each arm. The feeling of their tiny fingers wrapping around hers, the scent of their newborn skin, the overwhelming wave of love that had filled every corner of her being. A love so powerful, it made her feel like the richest person in the world. It was the most precious thing she owned. With a sob that was both agony and release, she let it go. She offered it to the heart. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a single tear, a perfect crystal of her sacrifice, fell from her eye and landed on the pulsing crystal. The effect was instantaneous. The heart didn't just glow, it exploded. A symphony of light and sound erupted from the chamber, so powerful it shook the very foundations of the North Pole. The scent of 1,000,000 Christmas mornings, pine needles, cinnamon, roasting nuts, and fresh snow filled the air. The light shot through the workshop, and every unfinished toy suddenly came to life. The wooden horse began to trot in place, its hooves making a soft clatter on the workbench. The doll's eyes blinked, and it waved a tiny porcelain hand. The magic wasn't just back. It was stronger, more real, more powerful than ever before, because it was now fueled by a mother's ultimate sacrifice. When Santa and the children ran to the chamber, they found Ilara collapsed on the floor, unconscious but with a peaceful smile on her face. In the center of the room, the heart of the North Pole burned with a steady, brilliant light, the color of a new dawn. In the years that followed, the workshop became more than just a toy shop. It was the epicenter of a global wonder. The toys Ilar and the elves now created were more than just playthings. They were companions, confidants, and keepers of dreams. The global gift project, born from this renewed magic, reached every corner of the world, delivering not just toys, but moments of pure, unadulterated joy. Ilara never fully remembered the memories she gave up, but sometimes, when she held her children, she would feel a faint, ghost-like echo of a love so profound it brought tears to her eyes. She had saved Christmas, not with magic, but with humanity. On Christmas Eve, as Sanha prepared to embark on his journey, the workshop was not a picture of silent, orderly efficiency. It was a beautiful, creative chaos. Elves were laughing, sharing stories, and putting the final, loving touches on their creations. The air was thick with paint, wood shavings, and something more magic. Santa picked up a small, specially designed car from Leora's new line of adaptive toys. He read the scroll attached to it. This toy was carved by Elmwood, who dreamed of being a racer as a child. He painted it red for courage and blue for calm. He hopes it makes you feel as fast and free as you are in your dreams. He looked at Ilara, who stood watching with her children beside her. Her green dress shimmered, not just with fabric, but with the light of purpose rekindled. "I think we have our answer," Santa said, his voice thick with emotion. He held up the letter from the orphanage. "The magic isn't just back, it's bigger than ever. Because it's not just my magic anymore, it's ours. It's fueled by love." As his sleigh soared into the night, carrying not just toys but stories, hope, and the undeniable proof of a love that had learned to adapt and grow, Ilara felt a profound peace. She had come to the North Pole as a hungry elf, desperate to feed her children. In saving them, she had saved Santa's workshop, and in nearly losing the magic to success, she had learnt the most important lesson of all, that true magic isn't a thing you possess, but a fire you tend together every single day, ensuring its light never ever fades. Have you ever had to give a piece of yourself to reignite the magic in the world? Ilara's story reminds us that the most powerful gifts aren't found under a tree, but are forged in the sacrifices of the heart. Subscribe for more stories that celebrate the enduring magic of the human spirit. And share in the comments a time when you had to reconnect with your own why. Your story might be the beacon of hope someone else needs to see.